The city of Zerlin Prime never slept. Its streets were full of bright lights, fast-moving hover cars, and tall alien buildings that touched the clouds. People from all across the galaxy came here to trade, eat, and show off their wealth. But in one quiet corner far away from the busy market sat a little alien girl. Her name was Luma, though no one in the city knew it. She was small, maybe 7 or 8 years old, with thin arms, dusty green skin, and long hair that hadn't been washed in months. She sat near a trash bin, curled up in a dirty blanket. Her clothes were torn and too big for her tiny body. In her hands, she held a small, empty metal bowl. She didn't beg loudly like others. She just waited, quietly, hopefully. But no one ever stopped. Aliens passed her by without looking. Some stepped over her. One fat alien tossed her a broken biscuit which had already been chewed. A group of teenagers laughed as they threw an old bottle at her. Still, Luma didn't cry. She just whispered softly to herself, "Maybe someone will stop today." That day, someone did. A human named Kyle walked through the streets, carrying a heavy bag on his back. He wore an old brown jacket, boots covered in dust, and a small device on his wrist that beeped every few seconds. He wasn't rich. He wasn't famous. He was just passing through looking for ship parts and food. But as he walked past the food stalls, he felt something strange. A feeling like someone was watching him. He turned and saw her, Luma, sitting still with her empty bowl. She looked up at him. Her eyes were large, glowing faintly, and filled with sadness. She didn't speak. She didn't beg. She just looked tired. Kyle slowed down. A local vendor saw him pause. "Don't waste time, human," the vendor said. "That girl's always there. Useless, dirty, might not even be real." Another alien added, "Could be a trap. Some gangs use fake kids to rob tourists." Kyle didn't listen. He walked toward her. As he got closer, he saw how thin she was. Her arms were shaking, her lips were dry, her eyes, they didn't just look sad. They looked like they were forgetting what hope felt like. He knelt down beside her and opened his bag. Without saying a word, he pulled out a food packet and placed it in her bowl. Luma stared at it for a long time. Then she looked up at him. Her voice was barely a whisper. "For me?" Kyle smiled gently. "Yes, for you." Tears filled her eyes. She hadn't cried in weeks. Not even when she was hit. Not even when her stomach hurt so much she thought she'd die. But now, with one warm food packet in her bowl, the tears came. She sniffled. "No one ever gives me anything." "Well," Kyle said softly, "someone should have." People walking by stared. Some laughed, others looked confused. One alien guard shouted, "Move along, human. You're not allowed to feed the trash." Kyle turned to face him. "She's not trash." The guard frowned. "She's not even registered. No ID, no family, no species code. She doesn't exist." Kyle stood. "She's breathing. That's enough for me." He picked up his bag, then looked down at Luma. "Do you have a name?" he asked. She hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Luma." "Nice to meet you, Luma," he said. "I'm Kyle." She hugged the food packet tightly to her chest like it was a treasure. Kyle looked around. The crowd was still staring. He sighed. "Come with me. You shouldn't be alone." She blinked. "Are you sure?" He smiled. "Yeah, I'm sure." He held out his hand. Luma stared at it for a moment. No one had touched her kindly in so long. Slowly, carefully, she took his hand. And in that moment, something changed. In a world full of strangers and silence, someone had finally seen her, not as a ghost, not as garbage, but as a child. The first thing Luma did when Kyle took her to his room was nothing. She stood near the door, frozen, like she wasn't sure if she had really been invited in. Her bare feet touched the clean floor, and her little fingers clutched the food packet as if someone might take it away any second. Kyle didn't rush her. He placed his bag on the small table and spoke gently. "You can sit. No one's going to hurt you here." Luma didn't move. Kyle turned to his small heater and powered it on. The room grew warmer. Outside, the city lights blinked through the dirty window, but inside, it was finally quiet. Then slowly, Luma stepped forward. She didn't sit on the bed or the chair. She sat on the floor right next to the heater. She curled up like a small animal trying to stay alive. Kyle handed her a blanket and a clean bottle of water. She stared at them like they were foreign objects. Finally, she whispered, "Why are you helping me?" Kyle sat across from her, leaning back against the wall, because no one else did. She looked down. "They say I'm cursed." Kyle frowned. "Do you believe them?" She didn't answer. Instead, she pulled up the sleeve of her arm. Underneath the dirt and bruises were burned markings. 3. Sharp symbols pressed into her skin, old, red, and deep. Kyle's eyes narrowed. "What are those?" Luma spoke in a soft voice. "My people marked me before they left. They said it's to warn others. They said I carry something broken." Kyle didn't say anything for a moment. Then carefully he pulled out a small scanner from his bag. It was old but reliable. "Do you mind?" he asked. She nodded slowly. He passed the scanner over her arm. The device beeped once, then again, then it stopped. A strange set of numbers appeared on the screen. Kyle blinked. "That can't be right." He scanned again. Same result. "What is it?" she asked. Kyle stared at the screen. "You have a genetic marker I've only seen in ancient records. You're special." Luma looked confused. "Special like good?" Kyle shook his head slowly. "Special like forgotten, lost, hidden." He pulled up the files from his ship's memory core. A picture appeared. An old document from 100 years ago. It described a species that had once protected the borders of the galaxy. Peacekeepers. Truth-bringers. But also feared. Their young were said to be born with a light inside them. A kind of energy that only showed up under pain or fear. Kyle looked at Luma again. "You're one of them," he said. "A light bearer." She blinked. "But I don't glow." "Not yet." He stood and walked toward the window. "If someone finds out what you are, they'll come for you, not to help, but to erase you." Luma hugged her knees. "Then maybe I should have stayed in the garbage." Kyle turned fast. "Don't ever say that." She flinched. He knelt beside her, slower now. "Listen, the galaxy is full of people who are scared of what they don't understand. But you're not broken. You're beautiful. And you're alive. That's enough reason to fight." A tear slid down Luma's cheek. "No one ever said that to me before," she whispered. Kyle reached out and gently wiped the tear away. "Well, I'm saying it now." Later that night, when she thought Kyle was asleep, Luma crept quietly to the mirror. She looked at herself, at her face, her messy hair, her thin body. Then she touched the scar on her arm. And for the first time, it glowed. Just a little. A faint light, soft and gold, flickered under her skin. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She just stared. In another part of the city, a tall alien in black robes watched a small scanner on his wrist. A red dot had appeared. "Target has awakened," he said to the figure behind him. The second figure nodded. "Then the hunt begins." The stars were quiet, but the machines were not. Somewhere in orbit above Zerlin Prime, an old satellite blinked awake. It hadn't moved in decades. Dust clung to its panels. It was forgotten, until a single pulse of light reached it. "Luma's a light," it responded immediately. Deep in its core, a signal that had been silent for 132 years began to blink red. It didn't ask permission. It didn't wait for orders. It sent a warning. "The child has activated. Protocol 9 engaged. Begin tracking." Back on the surface, in Kyle's small rented room, the silence was broken by a loud beep. Kyle's communicator flashed red. He jumped up from bed and checked the screen. His security system had picked up something, an outside signal trying to scan his building. It wasn't a local system. It was military. Off-world. Already? He muttered. He turned around. Luma was sitting up in the bed, blinking sleepily. "What's wrong?" he forced a calm voice. "Just system trouble. Go back to sleep." But she knew. She could feel it too. Something cold was moving closer. Kyle stepped out onto the rooftop. From there he could see the stars, normally peaceful, distant. But tonight, he saw 3 small lights falling from the sky. Not stars, not ships. Drones. Tracking drones. He tapped his communicator and called an old friend, Tella, a retired spaceport officer. The screen lit up. "Kyle, it's the middle of the cycle. I need a scan on the satellites above Zerlin Prime," he said fast. "Something's moving." Tella frowned. "Are you in trouble again?" Kyle glanced back at his door. "Not me. A girl. She's different." Tella's voice turned serious. "What's her name?" He hesitated. "Luma." There was silence on the other end. "Kyle, where did you find her?" "In the trash. No one would feed her. No one even looked at her." "Does she glow?" Kyle froze. "You know what she is?" Tella's voice was low now. "Get out of there. Hide. If they know she's alive, they'll come. Not to help. To erase her." "Why?" "Because her kind was made to protect the galaxy. But the galaxy changed. Now her kind is seen as a threat." The call ended. Kyle walked back into the room. Luma was sitting on the floor, her knees to her chest. "I felt them," she whispered. "They're looking for me." He nodded. "We need to move." She stood slowly. "I'm sorry." Kyle looked confused. "For what?" "For being me." He knelt and took her hands gently. "Luma, listen to me. You didn't ask for this. You didn't do anything wrong. This is not your fault." She looked into his eyes. "Then why does it hurt so much?" Kyle took a breath. "Because for the first time you're not invisible, and that scares them." They packed quickly. Kyle loaded his old hoverbike, wrapped Luma in a thick jacket, and slid through the back alleys of the city. They didn't use the main roads. Too risky, too open. Instead, they moved through shadows and ruins, dodging lights from above. As they neared the outer edge of the city, Luma stopped. "What is it?" Kyle asked. She pointed at a wall. A symbol glowed softly there, the same as the mark burned on her arm. Kyle scanned it. "It's old, pre-Empire tech." Luma touched it. The wall opened. Inside was a hidden path, a tunnel, dark and deep, leading far below the surface. Kyle stared. "How did you know?" "I don't," she said softly. "It knew me." Far above them, in the sky, the hunter ship, Void Claw, received the satellite alert. The commander leaned forward. His eyes were yellow. His voice was cold. "Mark the child's signal. Activate silencer squads." A soldier asked, "What if she awakens more systems?" The commander's voice turned sharp. "Then we won't just destroy her. We'll destroy the entire planet." Back underground, Luma walked silently beside Kyle. The tunnel lights flickered as she passed. Machines hidden in the walls responded to her presence. Symbols glowed. Doors unlocked without a sound. Kyle watched it all with awe and fear. "She's not just a child," he whispered. "She's a message." Luma looked up at him. "Will you still help me? Even now?" He smiled, though his eyes were heavy. "Yes, I said I would feed you. I never said I'd stop." The darkness welcomed her. Down in the ancient tunnel, far beneath the city of Zerlin Prime, Luma felt something. Not fear, not pain. Something else. Warmth. Not from the lights, not from the heater Kyle gave her. The warmth came from inside her chest. It was slow at first, like a small spark in her stomach, soft and quiet. But it spread with every step. The air was cold, yet her body grew warmer. Kyle noticed her breathing change. "Luma?" he asked, turning around. She was standing still, staring at the wall. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, but from something deeper. "I feel heavy," she whispered. He rushed to her side. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head slowly. "No, but something's waking up." And then it happened. Her skin, once dull and pale, began to glow. Soft gold light bloomed under her fingertips. Tiny symbols lit up along her arms, like ancient writing returning after 1,000 years. Her eyes shimmered with starlight. Kyle backed up, stunned. "Luma, what's happening to you?" Her voice was quiet. "I don't know." She looked at her hands in fear and wonder. "I've never felt this before. It doesn't hurt, but it feels like I'm not just me anymore." Kyle looked around the tunnel walls. Symbols began glowing there too, matching hers. The walls were reacting to her light. She wasn't just waking up. She was calling something. Suddenly, a loud hum filled the tunnel. Far ahead, a metal door began to open on its own. Ancient steam hissed from the cracks. Cold wind blew through, carrying a smell like old stars and forgotten machines. Kyle stepped forward carefully, blaster in hand. The room beyond the door was huge, a round chamber lined with strange machines and stone platforms. In the center was a large circular pedestal made of smooth white crystal. Luma walked toward it, as if drawn by invisible strings. Her glow grew brighter. The pedestal responded. Symbols lit up around it, spinning and flashing. Then a voice filled the room. Not from speakers, not from any machine. It came from everywhere. Light bearer recognized, sequence active, awaiting confirmation. Kyle gasped. What did it say? Luma stepped onto the pedestal. "Confirm identity," the voice said. She whispered her name. "Luma." The room pulsed with light. "Accepted." The entire chamber changed. Machines lifted from the ground. A star map appeared in the air, spinning systems, glowing lines, hidden gates. Some planets were marked with warnings. Others were marked with fire. Kyle stared in shock. "What is this?" Luma looked at him, her face glowing now like a small sun. "I think it's a memory," she said. "Not mine, but left for me." She touched one of the stars in the map. Suddenly, images rushed through the room, holograms of war, planets, burning, ships falling from the sky. Then came a message. "If you see this, the lifeblood is not gone. One child remains. She carries the last key. She must be protected or the stars will fall again." Kyle's voice was tight. "You're not just someone special, Luma. You're the last of your kind." Luma stepped down from the pedestal. "I'm not ready for this." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to be. I'll help you. We'll do this together." She looked into his eyes. "But what if I hurt someone?" "You won't," he said. "You saved me the moment. You made me stop walking." Suddenly, a red light blinked above them. Kyle's communicator buzzed. He tapped it. A voice came through, breathless. "Kyle, get out. They found your signal. An elite squad just landed near your last location. They're not peacekeepers. They're eradicators." Kyle's blood ran cold. "They're here," he whispered. Luma's glow flickered. "I felt them," she said. "They're close." Kyle looked around. "We need a way out." Luma walked back to the pedestal and touched a symbol shaped like a spiral. A hidden wall opened, behind it, a tunnel leading deeper underground, toward something ancient and unseen. Kyle grabbed his gear. "Where does it go?" Luma looked back. "Once. To the place my mother told me about before she died. The place where the light was first born." In a far-off command ship orbiting Zerlon Prime, silence hung in the air, until a single word appeared on the hunter's black screen. "Active." Commander Vral, the Empire's top hunter, leaned forward. His red mechanical eye zoomed in. His armor clicked and hissed with every movement. Around him, the bridge crew stood still. No one spoke when Vral was reading a signal. He studied the strange energy pattern glowing on the map. Light blood, he growled. It's real, a small alien soldier whispered. Shall we inform the council, sir? Vral's voice was ice. No. We don't tell them we lost control, until we destroy it. Down below, deep in the tunnels of the planet, Kyle and Luma moved quickly through the dark passage that had just opened. The air smelled different now, old like something untouched by time. Are we still in the city? Kyle asked. Luma shook her head. No, we're under the bones of the old world. Kyle frowned. The what? Luma stopped and placed her hand on the wall. The stone lit up, revealing carvings, ships, stars, and tall figures holding glowing orbs. They weren't drawings, they were memories. This city, she said softly, was built over the ruins of my people, long before the Empire. Kyle stared. Then why didn't they destroy all of it? Luma answered quietly. Because they were afraid of this place, of me. Behind them a sound echoed. Click, click, click. Heavy metal feet touched the stone floor above. Vral had arrived. With him were 6 black-armored soldiers, silent, deadly, programmed to erase all light blood traces without leaving a mark. They didn't arrest. They didn't question. They ended. One soldier found an old machine half-lit by Luma's energy. He fired at it. It exploded into dust. Vral sniffed the air like a beast. She went this way. The human, too. He smiled. I'll cut her light myself. Far below, Luma suddenly stopped walking, her body stiffened, her eyes wide. They're here. Kyle spun around. Where? Above. Close. One of them is hunting me. Kyle readied his blaster. Then we run. But Luma shook her head. No, we go deeper. The tunnel led them to a massive chamber, a natural cave carved into the planet itself. It was full of glowing roots, old machines, and a pool of water that shimmered like a mirror. In the middle of the pool was a floating orb, slowly spinning. Luma walked toward it. Wait! Kyle started. But the orb pulsed and sent out a wave of light that touched her chest. The marks on her skin glowed brighter than ever. The roots in the wall shifted and grew, curling toward her as if greeting her. A voice echoed softly in the air. Lightbearer, do you wish to awaken the core? Luma looked back at Kyle. Should. Kyle looked at her, not like a weapon, but like a child who deserved a future. He nodded once. If it saves you, yes. She turned and whispered, Awaken. Above, Vral and his hunters reached the last tunnel. A shockwave hit them. Light. Powerful and wild, the ground shook. The walls groaned. One hunter fell, smoking. Another tried to scan, but the machine burst. Vral's red eye dimmed for a second, then recharged. He hissed. She's activating the core. We're out of time. He raised his blade. No more mercy. Below, the orb shattered. Slowly, beautifully, into pieces of glowing dust that floated toward Luma's chest and disappeared into her skin. She gasped, her hair lifted. Her body glowed with pure golden fire. Even the water beneath her turned to light. Kyle shielded his eyes. Luma. But she wasn't in pain. She was becoming whole. She stepped from the pool and whispered, I feel them all. The ones who came before me. They never died. They became me. Kyle stared. Then we fight for them too. Footsteps echoed. Vral dropped from the tunnel roof like a falling shadow. His red eye locked onto Luma. He spoke her name like poison. You. She stared back without fear. Me. Vral raised his blade. Kyle stepped in front of her. Vral growled, Move, human. She's Empire property. Kyle leveled his blaster. She's a child. Vral's voice dripped with disgust. She's a weapon. Luma stepped forward. I was hungry. You didn't feed me, you ignored me, you hurt me. But he saw me. Her body glowed brighter. You don't get to silence me now. She raised her hand, and the core answered. He didn't look like a hero. Kyle's hands were shaking. His blaster was old, half-charged, and his boots were soaked from the glowing pool behind him. He wasn't trained for war. He wasn't rich. He wasn't strong. But he stood between Luma and the Empire's most feared hunter, because no one else ever had. Vral stepped closer, his black boots cracking the ancient stone. His red mechanical eye scanned Kyle from head to toe. "You are nothing," he said coldly. "You're just a traveler. A nobody." Kyle didn't move. "You're wrong," he said quietly. "I'm the one who fed her when the galaxy left her, to starve." Vral's blade hissed open, long, curved, glowing red. "She is not your child. She is not your problem. Step aside." Kyle's voice shook, but his feet stayed firm. "She is not my problem," he said. "She's my reason." Behind them, Luma's body pulsed with light. Her skin shimmered with ancient symbols. Her eyes glowed bright gold. But she was still a child, still breathing heavy, still scared. "Kyle," she said softly, "you don't have to do this." He didn't look back. "I already did." Vral charged. Kyle fired. Once, twice. The shots hit the hunter's armor and sparked but didn't stop him. Vral knocked Kyle back with one powerful strike. He hit the wall hard, pain shooting through his ribs. Luma screamed, running toward him. Vral raised his blade. "She's not meant to live," he growled. But as the blade fell, it stopped, mid-air, frozen by light. Luma stood between Kyle and the blade, both hands raised. Her small fingers glowed with pure energy, forming a barrier made of golden force. Vral struggled. "You can't stop me." Luma's voice was calm, but full of power. "You didn't feed me. You didn't see me. You don't get to touch me." With a shout, she pushed the energy outward. The wave slammed into Vral, sending him flying across the chamber. He crashed into the far wall with a loud crack. He didn't move. Silence. Kyle groaned, trying to sit up. "Luma." She ran to him, falling to her knees. "You're hurt." He smiled through the pain. "You saved me." She held his hand tightly. "You saved me first." Above them, cracks spread across the stone ceiling. The energy Luma had released was too much for the ancient walls. Rocks tumbled down, the chamber groaned. "It's collapsing," Kyle said, getting to his feet. But then, the ground shifted. Instead of falling, it rose. A platform lifted them both into a higher tunnel, one untouched by time. The light guided them forward. Behind them, Vral's broken body faded into darkness. They walked for a long time. No words, just light. Finally, the tunnel opened into a massive open chamber with a view of the stars. Real stars, not city lights. They were outside the city now, far beyond its borders. Luma looked up at the sky. "So many lights," she whispered. Kyle sat, down on a rock holding his side. "Every one of them, a world that never saw you." She looked at him. "But you did." He smiled. "And I'd do it again." She sat beside him. "I don't want to be a weapon," she said softly. "You're not," he said. "You're a child. A bright, brave one." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I want to help others like me. Lost ones. Hungry ones. The ones no one sees." Kyle nodded. "Then let's do it. Together." Far above them, satellites recorded everything. The light, the battle, the fall of Vral. And across the stars, people began to whisper the same story. A human fed a dirty alien girl. She glowed. She rose. She changed everything. For the first time in her life, Luma woke up without fear. No walls, no cold streets, no shouting. Just the sound of wind brushing the tall grass outside the hidden valley. Just the warmth of light pouring through an open cave. She stretched her arms and looked beside her. Kyle was already awake, sitting near the fire with a broken piece of tech in his hands. He looked tired but peaceful. "You didn't sleep," Luma said softly. He smiled at her. "Didn't want to miss the stars?" She sat beside him, hugging her knees. Do you think they're still looking for me? Kyle nodded slowly. Probably. Doe, you think they'll come? He looked into her golden eyes. Yes, but next time we'll be ready. The galaxy was changing, and fast. Footage of Luma's glowing light, her stand against Commander Vral, and the crumbling of ancient ruins had spread across black markets, rebel channels, and forgotten satellites. On slave planets, children whispered her name. On broken worlds, exiled healers and forgotten priests began to draw her symbol, the mark of light. And somewhere, deep in the Empire's dark heart, a council meeting turned cold as a voice reported, "The last light-bearer is not dead. She was found, and she was fed." The council didn't understand, but others did. In the following days, Kyle and Luma built a small shelter in the valley. Not a fortress, not a war room, a home. They grew food from the old soil, learned the names of stars from ancient tablets, and sent secret messages to the outcasts Kyle once traded with. And slowly, something beautiful happened. Others came. The first was a boy, with metal arms and no memory of his name. He followed the same light Luma once carried alone. Then came a mother and her daughter, both marked as unfit by the Empire. Then came 3 alien brothers with scarred faces, one of whom whispered, "We thought we were the only ones." Kyle watched it all quietly. Each new arrival bowed before Luma. She never asked them to, but they did anyway. And Luma? She smiled and said the same thing to each one. "You are not trash. You are not cursed. You are seen." But peace never lasts forever. One night, a new message appeared on Kyle's communicator, encrypted. Old code. It was from Tella, his friend at the spaceport. They're sending someone worse than Vral, a judge-class vessel. Planet burner. Kyle showed the message to Luma. "We can run," he said. "There are other systems, hidden ones. We can stay. Ahead." Luma shook her head. "We can't keep running, not when there are others like me still hiding, still starving." Kyle felt a mix of pride and dread. "Then we make a stand?" She nodded. "Not with weapons, not with war, with light." 3 days later, Luma stood on the valley hill. A simple platform was built from stone and metal scraps. A crystal from the ruins pulsed at the center. All around her stood the outcasts, orphans, broken and forgotten ones. She looked up. The stars listened. "To those who hear me," she said, her voice steady and clear, "I am Luma. I am the child you left behind. You called me nothing. You gave me trash. But one human stopped and gave me food, and that food became strength, and that strength became light." The crystal flashed. "I am not your weapon. I am not your mistake. I am your mirror. Every time you ignored a child crying in the corner, every time you called someone dirty, you killed a piece of your own future." Her body glowed gold. "But now, I glow for every voice that was silenced, for every hand that was slapped away. I glow so that you will never again say, 'We did not know.'" At that very moment, in the depths of space, hundreds of ships, from pirates to rebels to silent watchers, received her signal. Some turned away, but others turned toward her. The Empire's judge-class ship reached the planet a week later. Its captain looked down at the green valley below. "I see a farm, a camp, no army." A younger officer pointed at the scanner. "But the energy levels, they're off the charts." "Fire on the beacon," the captain ordered. The ship aimed its plasma cannon. It fired, but the blast never reached the ground. A golden shield, wide as a city, shimmered into view. The light bent, danced, and reflected the energy outward, sending the bolt into space like a shooting star. The captain stood in silence. "She shielded the planet?" "No, sir," the officer whispered. "She is the shield." Luma stood calmly as her light pulsed into the sky. Her eyes were closed. Her hand was held by a little boy with burns on his arm. And her smile? Soft, pure, brave. Back. On the ship, the captain gave his final order. Withdraw. Later that night, Kyle found her sitting under the stars. You did it, he said quietly. She shook her head. We did. He sat beside her, silent for a while, then he asked, Do you still remember the day I found you? She nodded. I was so hungry. He looked at her. You said I was the first one who saw you. She smiled. You still are. Years later, stories of the light child spread across systems. Some called her a saint, others called her a rebel. Some feared her, some followed her. But in the valley, they didn't call her a leader or a god. They called her family. And every night under the same stars that once watched her suffer, she fed the children, one bowl at a time, one story at a time, one broken soul at a time. Because one human had once fed her when no one else did.